Welcome and thanks for joining me. My name is Dr. James Keller-Shabroke. I'm a physical medicine and rehabilitation doctor, and I specialize in musculoskeletal injuries. The focus of most of these podcasts will be around injury rehabilitation and understanding the various pathologies that can affect the body. The first of our podcasts will focus on the shoulder and rotator cuff injuries. It's important to understand the structures that are involved in injury. Oftentimes the tendon is the area that is damaged and needs the most focus of our attention. Normally when people go to the gym and they work out, they focus on muscle bulk and muscle building. And this is done usually through concentric strengthening, where you pick up a weight, you shorten the muscle under a load, and then return the muscle to its original point, during which time muscle fibers are ripped and they're rebuilt in a stronger fashion. When you're dealing with tendon injuries or trying to increase the strength or tensile strength of tendons, you want to focus on what's called eccentric strengthening. During an eccentric strengthening exercise, the muscle is first shortened, and then under a slow return to its normal, that increased load across the tendon helps those tendons to organize in a way that is more functional and helps those tendons to repair and potentially build themselves larger. So when we're dealing with rotator cuff type injuries, the important part is to focus on first the area that is uninjured, which is the scapula or shoulder blade. And if we put the scapular shoulder blade in the appropriate position, it helps to open up the space for the rotator cuff muscles themselves so that they are less likely to be injured moving forward. So we're going to start by finding a nice wall in your home or the exercise facility that you go to, and we're going to use that wall as a plane in which we can keep our arms in a position if our body is here, so our arms are not in front or behind, but they're in line with our body. And as we're moving our arms and shoulders, this will help to remind us of where our hands and arms should be in space in relation to our shoulder blades. So here we have our wall, and we're going to be focusing on middle and lower trap strengthening. So the trapezius muscles, really there's three components. There's the upper trap, which is the trapezius that most people think of. It works in shoulder shrug. It also is actively on most of the time, and it's had a lot of tension in most people. We want to focus on middle and lower traps, which are kind of the opposing muscle groups to these upper trapezius muscles. The middle trap goes between the middle of the shoulder blades. The lower trap forms this V pointing down towards the bottom of the thoracic spine. So I'm going to turn and face the wall and walk as close to the wall as I can so that my nose is almost touching the wall, and then put my arms out at my sides, relatively level with my shoulders. And for the first exercise, all we're going to do is going to make the shape of a T out to the side. But in so doing, the process is really focusing on these middle muscles, and as I bring my arms to the side, trying to keep those muscles tense and keep my shoulder blades in place on my back. If I start to feel my shoulder blades traveling laterally, traveling out on my back, that is as far as I would like you to go to begin with. So again, keeping your hands parallel to the wall, moving them in a horizontal fashion, slowly bring them out and bring them in. Really focusing on these middle muscles holding the shoulder blades in place. As opposed to bringing your arms out to the side and letting your shoulder blades wing out to the side. This is not what we would like to do. And if you feel that you can control your shoulder blades, you can take your arms completely out laterally in the shape of a T, all the way out and in, all the while focusing on these two muscles being turned on. The next exercise we're going to focus on is called a Y. And so your arms will be moving in a superior or cephalad direction at a 45-degree angle to your body, again forming the shape of a Y. This time focusing on the lower trapezius muscles, which lie just below where the shoulder blade ends and below. And you're going to bring your arms up at a 45-degree angle, again trying to keep those shoulder blades in place as you bring your arms all the way up. Now, for someone who has a rotator cuff problem, this might be difficult. And so the goal would be to come up at a 45-degree angle until your arm is horizontal with the ground. And this will keep your shoulder muscles, the rotator cuff muscles themselves, from being overly aggravated. Again, focusing on keeping those shoulder blades down and back, up and down, just like this. Most of these exercises should be repeated 15 to 20 times. Again, start perhaps with 5, really focusing on the quality of the movement, and then increasing to 15 as you go. So these next 3 exercises will focus on the actual rotator cuff muscles themselves. Again, touching on this idea of eccentric strengthening. If I'm going to be working on a muscle that typically externally rotates my shoulder, the eccentric component would be externally rotating my shoulder and then allowing the tension on the band that I'm going to be using to slowly pull me back to the starting position, but resist that. And so it's going to be out with 1 second movement and in with the 1, 2, 3, nice and slow. Out, 1, 2, 3. So I have a band here attached to the wall. Again, it would be at the same height as my arm would be in a 90-degree bend position like this. Making sure that I begin my exercise with my chest elevated and raised and my shoulders relaxed and my shoulder blades, those scapula, held in the retracted position on my back. So again, not allowing them to come out, but keeping them right in the center where they're designed to be. And so the tension on this band should be such that I have some resistance from the beginning, but I have the lightest band that I have in my personal possession. And so again, holding my elbow at my side, not allowing my elbow to come out. Sometimes people will use a rolled up towel underneath here to kind of remind them to keep their shoulder and their elbow in place. Again, putting a little bit of tension on this band. You can always just kind of step away from the band, add tension if you wish, or shorten up on it. Again, keeping it slightly in front of your body to begin with, and then externally rotating the shoulder and resisting coming back in. So this motion, faster out, but slower in. So here we go, ready? Out, in, out, in. And as you go out, it can be quick, in is nice and slow. Again, really focusing on lifting your chest up, keeping your shoulder blades intact, or I'm sorry, in the position on your back where we had just talked about previously. Out and slowly coming in, out, slowly coming in. And so this is the external rotator of the shoulder, which is called the infraspinatus muscle. The subscapularis muscle, which rotates the shoulder in, is going to rotate the shoulder in and then resist it out. And for this one, I'm going to turn around, but it's going to be the same concept. I'm going to start with the arm in the externally rotated position, and I'm going to bring it to my belly. So a bit too much tension there. Bring it to my belly. Again, keeping my chest elevated, raised, my shoulder blades together. Bring the fist to the belly, and then slowly resist coming back out. And really focusing on slow return to its original position, keeping the elbow at the side. Now, when you're rehabilitating a tear in the shoulder, if you know which muscle is torn, you can be a little bit more cautious with that particular motion. If you don't know which muscle is torn, then all of these exercises should be to pain only. So if something is causing you discomfort or pain in the shoulder itself, you need to reduce the tension or potentially not move quite so far out in the rotation of the motion, or use a lighter band. So those are the first 2 exercises. The third exercise is going to be accomplished by removing the band from the object that you've attached it to. This band is going to go underneath your foot, of the opposite foot. I will step on that band, and then this motion is going to be raising my arm laterally out to the side with 2 important details. One, I recommend not bringing the arm higher than about 75 to 80 degrees. Once you start raising it to this point, the supraspinatus tendon, which is oftentimes involved in a rotator cuff injury, is potentially at a disadvantage and perhaps will be more injured during this exercise. So staying down in this range is preferable. Secondly, as you bring your arm out to the side, it should not be in a plane horizontal with your body or parallel with your body. It should be slightly in front of, at about 15 to 20 degrees, which is the natural angle that the shoulder blade or scapula holds on your back. And so raising your arm in this position is the motion that we're trying to accomplish. So again, stepping on the band, raising my chest, keeping my shoulders down, my shoulder blades pinched together. With the least amount of tension possible on the band, I'm going to be raising my arm up, coming down, up and down. And again, the down is the important part. So raise it up quickly and then slowly resist it coming down. Again, all the while making sure we are squeezing the shoulder blades together. We don't want the shoulders to roll forwards like this, because this puts the rotator cuff muscles in a pinched area, it potentially causes more damage. So again, elevating or raising the chest, keeping the shoulder blades down and back, up and down like this. Now, as I mentioned before, most of the time, the infraspinatus and the infraspinatus and subscapularis muscles are the least likely to be injured, and the supraspinatus is going to be the one that's the problem, which is this last exercise. So again, if you find that this is difficult, perhaps even doing this exercise with no resistance band at all and just the weight of your arm is a good starting point. You can also use a bag of rice, which is about 1 to 2 pounds, or a little free weight. I like resistance bands for the internal and external rotation because, again, holding a weight in this resistance, in this position, you don't have the resistance of the pulling as much, whereas with this particular muscle, gravity is working with you to help put the resistance on that tendon, causing some tension as you're lifting it up into the air. Thanks for joining me today in what will hopefully be the first of many podcasts focused on helping you regain the quality of your life back and allowing you to do the things that you hope to do.